So let's start with Will Ospreay and Hangman Page. My expectation level is through the roof for this match. I am really, really looking forward to this match, and I can't imagine this disappointing in any way. I think this is honestly going to be like, I'm going into this with the ability of this like equaling like Omega Kid from January. It's a very high expectation level way. We will see. Maybe too high of an expectation level, but that's what this should be. And I'll go the further hot take. I think this was built up significantly better than the main event of WrestleMania.
I don't know if that's such a hot take, John.
No, it's probably not.
Oh, you're joking. Okay. I think anytime you have a Will Ospreay pay-per-view match against a notable, opponent, it's bound to be in contention for like not just a show stealer, but a potential match of the year candidate. Will Ospreay being in the main event against somebody like a Hangman Page, who you can argue is maybe enjoying like the hottest babyface run of his AEW tenure thus far, I think is really bound to at least deliver on high expectations. I think the audience will be really, really loud for this one with two of your hottest baby faces in the entire company. I think in terms of story, both of them have a lot to fight for, and both are very viable options to headline All In coming up. So it's a tough match to call, but I think the long-term story to me still feels like it's a Hangman Page win. It is, in my opinion, kind of tough to call because Forbidden Door with Ospreay going in as champion makes a whole lot of sense. I just feel like Page being a long-term character, long-term like main character type of figure for AEW feels like the appropriate person to end Moxley's reign at All In.
Yeah, I'm the same. I see Hangman winning this match, and I'm very interested to see if they could do it in such a way that they have this classic, and either it's just the demand is automatically there for it, or you create some kind of out that you could run this back at Forbidden Door.
Yeah. I guess it would, again, suggest that Forbidden Door would be more of a collection of like, matches that would just be AEW versus AEW talent. And then because I'm expecting more of a crossover match, and I don't know that this would satisfy, an inter-promotional match.
Yeah, I don't know what would satisfy as an inter-promotional match at this point.
Gabe Kidd being involved. Again, Gabe Kidd, Kenny is sort of like maybe one of the expectations, but like Gabe Kidd Ospreay also feels like a pretty decent match.
Well, Gabe Kidd can't wrestle everybody on this card.
Yeah, it can't just be Gabe
He can only
Kidd.
do one match, I think.
I mean, I think a Will Ospreay versus like notable, New Japan talent is still like a good main event. Like you could throw a Shingo in there. I think it still feels like it's a main event worthy type of match. You know what I mean?
You could do a Shingo,
So officially your pick is
Page.
You're going to Page B2. Yeah.
Jamie Hayter and Mercedes Moné. I see this being Jamie Hayter's big win. I think she almost needs to win this match. I think Toni Storm and Mercedes is a big match. It's not like there's a clock ticking that you have to get to that match. I think that's a big one that you can pull when needed. And I think for this, I see Hayter going for Toni Storm's belt, and I see Mercedes probably with Athena in Texas or something else that they conjure up. But the idea of doing Toni and Mercedes, I don't see that being the direction. And Jamie Hayter gets the big win, and this is Mercedes' first singles loss in AEW.
I can certainly see that scenario, and I think maybe if this was like a few weeks earlier, I would have completely agreed with the scenario. But I think for me, my thoughts are very much contingent on Athena and how absent she's felt since like being eliminated from the tournament. And it's at the point now where if she is to accept a big match against Mercedes Moné at All In, I feel like they would have made a bigger effort to continue to feature her. And now I'm just not so sure that she will have a prominent role, at least not a role as prominent as a Mercedes TBS title match at All In. So at least I'm at least calling that into question. And I could also see very much Tony wanting to book Mercedes versus Toni Storm for the biggest show of the year. When is the time to pull that card, if not for your major stadium show, right? This is a stadium show level type of match. Of course, it would tie up both belts, and I don't know if that's something that they would necessarily want. At the same time, if you're talking about the biggest match possible for your division on the biggest show of the year, I could see them doing it. So I'm gonna say Moné wins.
Okay, well we're in fierce disagreement. Next we go to let's go with Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa. So this is for the AEW Women's Championship. I don't see anyone expecting a title change here. This is a very big match for Mina Shirakawa in a prominent position on this card with Toni Storm. And, if they can, stand out as a lot of Toni Storm's pay-per-view matches have been able to do these last couple of months.
Yeah, the strength of, I think, Mina Shirakawa as a talent it has already been evident in these 2 weeks where she comes out. Simply having the wrong song would elicit an incredible reaction online for her. That plus just like in a matter of weeks, like being able to just be inserted into this program and getting the amount of attention that I think this match has is great. Like on paper, it's already a match that we can look forward to as a potential show stealer. Certainly. Tony is going to win this one, but I'm interested to see what value they give Mina Shirakawa coming out of it. I think she'll have a hard fought battle. She'll end up losing, but at the same time, she needs to be like kept strong enough so that she could be pivoted to another program against the heel this time. So who will that be? Will somebody come out to attack her after the match? Will somebody cost her the match somehow? Very notable in all of this is that we've had no mention, deliberately, obviously, of Mariah May in the build-up. Correct me if I'm wrong, John. Only allusions made to her, right? And the shared history.
Like if that, yeah, like
yeah.
She is
so obviously it could mean that Mariah May at this point, we don't know what her status is. They could have a strong feeling she's headed to the WWE, and therefore we're going to not mention her whatsoever on air. It could also be done intentionally to make us think that, only for her to come out to attack Mina Shirakawa or get involved in this match somehow in the lead up to All In. So that is going to be a pretty interesting element to consider for all of this as well.
The Hurt Syndicate against the Sons of Texas. I think this could actually be like a really good match that they have in the middle here. I think that the Hurt business, or the Hurt Syndicate, I feel like in the early goings of this tag run, it was such utter domination that it was almost just, I think they have kind of understood now, like the ability, like we saw with the Gates of Agony, for instance. It's like, yes, they're going to go over, but I think they're much more like open to just selling more in these matches. They make them more competitive. It makes it more dramatic in that sense, and it helps get your opponents over in losing. And I think Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, they're a very good team together. I think this will. I think if you're going in and not thinking much of this match, I think like this one could pleasantly surprise people.
Yeah, I'm not expecting this to be a squash or a blowout showcase match for this is not Top Flight. I think they'll be a lot more protective of the Sons of Texas, and I almost was about to say Sons of Anarchy just because we're about to preview that match. I expect to okay, maybe not I don't know 70-30 Hurt Syndicate match. This might be more of a 65-35 Hurt Syndicate match.
Does Dustin Rhodes turn back the clock and do a double or nothing gusher in this match?
Oh, that will probably be reserved for the main event, or either the main event or Anarchy in the Arena, and therefore maybe not then.
Well, he maybe just doesn't ask. Just goes for it.
What is MJF's role in this match?
That's probably going to be the most interesting part here. Like MJF should be somewhat involved in this to progress this forward, because we really don't know where MJF is going now, like with his next direction. That it's with the Hurt Syndicate. Is it against the Hurt Syndicate?
Yeah.
I don't know if we get like any kind of big angle on this show, but I think that's going to play itself out on TV.
I feel like MJF has to make an appearance. I mean, this entire month's build-up has been, about MJF's involvement with the Hurt Syndicate, and I think he will get involved in the match, certainly, but will it be somehow in favor of the Hurt Syndicate, or will he somehow cost the match for the Hurt Syndicate?
I think at some point he should be in that role to cost them, but I don't see it being this early.
Okay, yeah. I'm just curious to see how they progress the story and maybe kind of like play with our expectations.
I mean, he may end up being the big focus of this whole match above.
I think that would be my expectation. Yeah.
All right, we continue on, and next we will go to the stretcher match involving Ricochet and Mark Briscoe. So we have got. Sort of. I don't know where you put this on the show. I mean, it's Mark Briscoe and Ricochet. I don't see this disappointing.
You could put it anywhere, man. Maybe like a bit of a distance from Anarchy in the arena, just because I would assume before Anarchy in the arena as well, just because I feel like in terms of just like Anarchy in the arena is going to really top it. So the stretcher match, maybe putting it towards earlier in the match, and it'll be a great like mini stunt show that would be a prelude. And how could it disappoint? Both are incredible, and Briscoe is going to take quite a bit of damage. Maybe Ricochet too, for that matter.
Does Ricochet do a shooting star press onto a stretcher?
That's a very specific call out, but I'm going to say yes. Yeah, sure. Why not?
This would feel like a match that if you were going to assign like some heavy to Ricochet, like this would be the place to introduce him, and Ricochet wins somehow. Like somehow Ricochet escapes with the victory here. All he has to, they explained it, this, because there's all these variations on the stretcher match. They've just got to put the guy in the ambulance and close the doors. So I see Ricochet winning this with some kind of help, or that would be where I look.
Ricochet feels like the type of perfect character to have a heavy behind him that he could fly around. So who do you have anybody in mind that might be on roster?
Not on the roster, because it would be Omos, but unfortunately he's riding a bench. There's probably somebody that we're just not thinking of that would make sense, like a Wardlow or someone that is just ready to come back. I wouldn't be like going out of my way to sign someone new, but it just seems the Ricochet character would greatly benefit from that. He's doing great in this role, but I think that would accentuate this character of having the guy that can be the heater for Ricochet.
Yeah. I don't think there's to be much mystery about who's going to win this one. Like Ricochet feels like the project right now who's still on the ascent, whereas Briscoe, I think it feels very comfortable in this sort of like role where
he's also Teflon.
Yeah, like he can lose and you'll just end up loving him more. But I also think like they have bigger plans for Ricochet, especially heading towards All In. So I think Ricochet wins.
FTR against Daniel Garcia and Nigel McGuinness.
Yeah, interesting one. I'm excited just to kind of see more of Nigel in the ring. I'm curious to see like how he and Daniel Garcia may match up in terms of like technical style. I'm curious to see Nigel pair up with both members of FTR. So that's the primary interest for me, is to just kind of see more of Nigel McGuinness in modern day wrestling. But clear winners to me, or probably FTR, who seem to be on a bit of a hot streak right now with their heel turn, thanks to Stokely Hathaway on the outside. So how will they screw Nigel McGuinness in? What is Daniel Garcia's big story coming out of this?
Yeah, you have all these like weird parts attached to this. I mean, like obviously for Daniel Garcia, I could see like Daniel Garcia somehow being linked with, like, whenever Copeland comes back, maybe he's an ally with Copeland, somehow staying connected to all this, because there's more story to tell with Garcia with FTR that I think they'll continue beyond just this match. And perhaps it's Nigel taking like the spike pile driver or something at the end of this. But the hockey season's over, so Copeland should be back pretty soon. And I think that's what everyone's looking at towards his comeback, and whether it's as soon as a Sunday, potentially.
Yeah. We're both going with FTR.
I think so. I think that at the very least, I'm expecting like Nigel to probably get killed at the end of this by FTR. But FTR should win this match. Yes. Okada and Speedball Mike Bailey added tonight for the Continental Championship. So will we get 18-minute Okada, or will we get sub 18-minute Okada?
I don't know if this match will go 18 minutes on this particular card, but I think it'll be a good Okada match, especially in there with Speedball. It's an interesting contrast of styles. I mean, Okada, you can expect to pretty much dominate most of it, but I don't expect the pace to be really slow because it's Speedball in there. So I'm curious to see how that merges. And I mean, for Speedball, you can argue one of the biggest matches he's ever had, in the ring with Kazuchika Okada on a pay-per-view, right? So you can expect him at his best, and you could hopefully expect Okada at his best too. I'm just curious how the styles will match because it's kind of hard for me to picture.
Yeah, I think Okada has to win this one pretty solidly if you're going towards him and Omega and just keeping him strong for July. Like, again, Bailey is going to be one of those figures that you can build up, and he's going to have the extraordinary match, but does fall short at the end. And I don't think there should be any shenanigans attached to this. I think he's just going to win solidly and look dominant going into the next program.
I'm looking forward to the match, but like I guess for me, my sort of anticipation for Okada matches isn't necessarily so high that I feel like this could steal the show, at least not on a card like this that has so many potential show stealers, but I'm still very much looking forward to it.
And the last one, it's Anarchy in the Arena with Kenny Omega, Swerve, Willow, Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Katsuyori Shibata taking on Jon Moxley, Claudio, Marina Shafir, Wheeler Yuta, and the Young Bucks. You have not thought about what the soundtrack will consist of?
I'm very curious. What is Tony paying for that we could hear throughout all of this? Like when you think about it, there's really kind of nobody that we associate with like a big, like Wild Thing type of song, like in any of on the roster, right?
So what if they were able to, everyone, just thinks about like New Jack when, you see these brawls, but instead of like licensing like Natural Born Killers, what if they licensed the WWE Network licensed music that they use for the New Jack segments?
That generic theme song that they used to cover?
In the ghetto.
I wonder how many people would.
I would give this 1,000,000 thumbs up if they got In the Ghetto.
It's got to be something that like either makes sense given I don't know the participants.
It's going to be multiple songs, way.
Or like I was going to say like something desert themed, like I don't know. They're making such a big deal out of this being in the desert.
Desert Rose.
I don't know that one.
Oh.
Would that be good? Would that get people hyped?
If they play Sting, I think that would be the ultimate tie-in.
Oh, okay. That to me is one of the big hooks. What song gets featured on?
You have opened not anything I have thought about in the lead up to this match until tonight. Where you have added a whole new wrinkle to this match.
But they have had an astonishingly strong track record with this match and Stadium Stampede. Stadium Stampede, I suppose, is more known for being like, I guess they're sort of what did they call those? What did we call these matches back? Theatrical matches, cinematic matches during the pandemic. Anarchy in the Arena is more of just like the in-arena brawl that is like kind of batshit crazy with a lot thrown in there. How could this match go wrong when you've got like Kenny and the Bucks and the Death Riders, Swerve, Joe? But I'm most interested in seeing like Willow and Marina's contributions to all of this.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really big role for Marina Shafir. I think this is the right setting for her as well. I won't lie. I understand he's come back and he's really showing no like ill effects and stuff, but I do look at Shibata in this match, and I like, there have been people that have like totally come out of these matches with like concussions, and there is going to be a huge amount of that in this match, and I just don't think I'm never gonna watch a Shibata match in my life and just not have that in the back of my head here. And this is going to be a match where, it's like all of these guys, they're all going to have their big spots and everyone's going to want to outshine one another and have, and carry their weight in this match. And Shibata is one I do not want to see him doing anything that is approximating some of the other spots that we will most likely see from other participants in this match.
Yeah, that's worthwhile to bring up. And, at the same time, he has been involved in like a lot of brawling types of situations. So you would hope that, I think, whoever's in there with him would be conscious enough to respect that. What are some of the other pairings you could see that might be of note between the participants here?
I mean, Moxley is the big focus here. I think that he will, I think, Swerve was so over on tonight's show. Like, I do think the heat for this one is going to be outstanding. Like, just the sheer amount of talent in this match is astounding of what they have here. When you have Swerve and Omega and Joe and Moxley and Claudio. I guess we can't talk about like the Gabe Kidd involvement here. And, it's what a lot of people have like deduced here is like it's been just over a year since Eddie Kingston's been out, and now you have Moxley that is not only aligned with Claudio, but it's the guy that took him out in his last match a year ago in Gabe Kidd. And I think the most famous image from a Anarchy in the Arena is Eddie Kingston coming down with that jug of gasoline, which to me was like the all-time image from really, like, if you were to isolate like the images of AEW's history, that one's on it for me. Absolutely.
Yeah, that could be the cover of the book that
oh my God,
that's being released.
That should be.
Expectations are very high for an Eddie Kingston return as a result of this Gabe Kidd introduction. And even though like the Gabe Kidd injury did not take place on AEW TV, enough people, I think, know, and it's something that they could easily explain. He's a perfect fit for this like team AEW type of thing against a John Moxley, and it almost feels like it's perfect. Listen, Gabe Kidd is a very important person suddenly. Maybe for All In, but certainly for Forbidden Door, and you could pair so many guys with him in an Eddie Kingston, Kenny Omega rematch. We talked about the possibility of Will Ospreay versus Gabe Kidd feeling like a big match as well. Yeah. So he will have a big role here, I think, all throughout the summer with AEW. But beyond that,
and for Kingston coming back, it's like if you were to do it as soon as this Sunday, I like the idea of like all these obstacles. Moxley is like, that can be a long term, like end of the year, the title's off Moxley, and that's like Kingston's ultimate, like that's his final boss that he is going after is John Moxley.
Sure. Yeah. Regardless of whether or not he's holding the title, that
I think it's preferred personal if he does not have the title at that point. Yeah. Like, I don't think that needs to be a title program. But they could do an explosive, an exploding death match, ring explosion match, and they can go back. They could do it at Revolution next year, and they rewrite history.
Something tells me that is a match that they will never revisit again.
Probably not.
Unless it's Atsushi Onita, it will be in charge of the pyrotechnics himself. Yeah. I'm looking forward to interactions. Like, they tease some sort of like, a team up between Kenny and Swerve as a tag team. I'm looking forward to seeing those two pair off with the Bucks, perhaps in some sort of like mixture of whatever craziness that they could do. The sort of meat component in all of this between like Claudio and Hobbs together could be a lot of fun. Joe Moxley continuing whatever they've got going on. Is Hook completely out of the picture right now, or can we expect involvement from him? Because that could be the other person. Like, are we getting ahead of ourselves with Eddie Kingston? Because I could also see Hook being that person as well.
Yeah, I guess that's possible. I don't want to like overrun this.
Hook would be disappointing, sadly. Like, if our expectations are Eddie.
Well, you know what? It's like you have to you set these things up, and that's where you set expectations for your fans, and you have to be aware of that. Of where the expectation level is. I think, but the main key to me of this show is that by the time we're talking on Sunday night, I think we should have at least like a decent picture of where they're going for All In. Already we can see several of the ways that they're going. Like, they're way ahead of the game, I think, for
Kenny
All
Okada,
In. And I think that, by the end of Sunday, well, we'll definitely know two of the matches coming out of the Owen results. But I think this Anarchy in the Arena, you should be coming out of this show with like, these are the matches I want to see, and or at least like a good idea of some of the directions. And listen, I think their booking has been very strong, and it's not like just a small aberration. It's been clicking for several months now, and it's this is the time to really cash in and build up for this big show in July.
Small aside here, but let's not forget the potential pairing of Shibata with Gabe Kidd from the dojo.
Another one, yeah, which we've failed to mention.
AEW will revolve around Gabe Kidd for the next few months.
Like, quite honestly, like the commentary plays a big role here about, being able to connect the dots of a lot of this as well. So I think this is going to be spectacular, and it's not just from like the match itself, but I think a lot of the connections, the stories, and what's coming out of this is also as intriguing, kind of like the plot twists that you'll have and all the different scenarios you can have with so many of their major players in one match.
Yeah, I'm hyped for every single match thus far of this 8-match card.
I really like this 8-match format. Like, every match feels it's like nothing's just been thrown on here just for the sake of it. It's 8, I would say, like very good to exceptionally great matches in terms of how they've been built up. Like, you could say like the weakest built up match is like the tag title match. And I don't think anything is going to necessarily overstay its welcome. I am curious kind of the time allotment that some of these receive, but I think overall, like, this is a very good lineup, and also one that it does not feel like they are just throwing everything at you either, where some of these pay-per-view lineups can be.
Yeah, I truly don't think they need to add any more matches to this like main card. I don't think they're going to be selling anything more with the knowledge that, like, I don't know, like somebody else would be included in this. The buy-in, let's see what they put in there. 0 hours, sorry, that's what they call them.